Hi, students. It's Dr. Bushman, and this is the follow-up video from the one that Jordan from McGraw-Hill made in regard to Connect, our team project for 3802, which is the practice marketing full simulation, where you are participating in teams and acting as a marketing department within a corporation launching a product, in this case, backpacks. So you should have chosen one segment to target and built a product, priced it, and done your turn number one and have some results. What this video is designed to do is to show you how to actually read what's called a dashboard. In this case, this simulation has a chart or a graph, and a marketing dashboard, what it does is it gives visual displays of data that comes from a marketing MIS system. So in the background, there is an MIS system running, and it's gathering data from the market. It's gathering sales information. It's gathering market information, gathers information about the competitor, calculates our cost of goods sold. What are our fixed costs? What are our variable costs? What is our supply chain cost? And all of those different components go into making a product and launching it. Gathers our advertising cost. And what the dashboard does is the dashboard gives us a visual representation to help us as humans better or more easily interpret what those numbers mean. And so I'm going to show you how to read the chart and hopefully understand a little bit more about how to make adjustments so that your product does better in turn two than it did in turn one. Of course, there's always a chance when you change things up that it'll do worse. But then, that's sometimes how we learn in business and in marketing. If we make some changes and the product actually does work, well, worse, then we actually made changes in the wrong direction. And many times it's good to make small changes instead of big sweeping changes so you can measure and make sure that you know what direction a particular change made. So in this sim, you're competing against your other classmates that are on other teams. If there's less than 6 teams in your course, there are some computer-generated teams as well. And I am moving in this video with the expectation that you already know how to get to the reports in the sim. And that was in video number 1 that was created by Jordan. So I'm going to share out my screen. And you're going to notice right away that I'm already in the reports window. And one of the things that should come up after your turn and you go into reports is to get a little message basically from the simulation in regard to what you might want to change. And you can cycle through some of these. These will give you a little bit of insight. If your turn doesn't have these, I actually, in our pilot, we had a class or a team that scored a 99% in the simulation. Their choices were just near perfect. And I will tell you that they were marketing backpacks to children, but you don't sell backpacks to children, you market it to their parents. So there are a couple of types of reports. One is the leaderboard. So the leaderboard, once you take a turn, each turn is considered a quarter. And so this will kind of give a overview of how well each particular team might be doing in different areas. And you don't want your account balance to be negative. That is not a good thing. If you want to learn how many points you're earning, you've got to go to cumulative. And over on the right-hand side, this is actually where you'll find out how many points that a particular team or your team is earning. And for instance, in this case, the team with 86% is in first place. So they're going to be earning the most amount of points. And then after that, and these are all computer-generated teams. You see that second place is all the way down at 61%. But in our grading, Second team actually gets awarded 90 points. First place team 100, third place team 80, and so forth. But that just kind of shows how you're doing with the competition. If you want to get some insight, you want to go to the reports button. And so on the reports button, you want to make sure you hit the turn on graphs, because if you look at the other ones, right, this is the data that's behind the graphs. All right. And you can learn a lot from the data, but it takes an understanding of accounting. It takes understanding, particular managerial accounting. And, back in the day, when I, was getting my bachelor's degree, I did actually get a managerial accounting minor, specifically so that I could look and read these type of numbers and interpret what they actually mean as far as my business goes. Since then, and of course, working in the MarTech, marketing technology and fintech industry, we built business information systems with business intelligence software. And the business intelligence software basically takes those numbers and creates what's called a dashboard. So it creates the data visualizations. And so in this case, we're looking at gross profit. So our orange team, if you hover over, you can actually see where the grid crosses the graph, and each turn where their gross profit stands. And in the real world, you might think about that might be in the millions of dollars, not just 5,588, but maybe 5 million, $588, etc. And so I might actually want to take a look and say, okay, my orange team is Kev Gear. They're doing a lot, their gross profit's really high. But look down here at the ML Backpacks team, like they're literally negative. They're going out of business is what's happening here. They're losing money and they're going to go out of business. And it is the marketing team's responsibility to make sure that they sell product and generate revenue. Sales is actually part of the marketing team. So I might want to actually, if I were on this blue team, I might want to go up and try to figure out what in the heck is going on and what is this orange team, doing. So I might go in and I might check and go unit price. Well, what are they selling their backpacks for? Oh man, they're selling their backpacks for, $60. Okay. And, we're selling ours for 65. So there's not a whole lot of difference in price. Well, what's the unit cost? Okay. Our unit cost is $48 and we're selling ours for 65. So what's the difference there? $17. That only gives us $17 of gross margin, whereas the orange team's cost of goods sold is 26, right? So they've got $34 because they're selling theirs for 60. They've got $34 in gross margin to fund the business with and actually cover cost, sales cost, advertising cost, those type of business expenses. We could also go in and see what their total revenue might be. And it's interesting, as the blue team, our total revenue is not too far behind the orange team. But our cost of goods sold is just out of the roof. Look how high the light blue team's cost of goods sold is. Their cost of goods sold, which includes your fixed cost, like your factory, anything that is just this, your lease on your property, leases on your equipment, and then also your variable cost. Variable costs are things that go up and down based on how much you use them. Electricity, the amount of supplies that you need. Because when you're manufacturing the backpacks, it takes a certain amount of materials and a certain amount of parts, based on how many backpacks you're actually producing. And so cost of goods sold is literally everything that goes into producing that backpack, marketing it, advertising it, and putting it out there on the open market. And so based on the cost of goods sold, I can see why my company's failing. And in this situation, it just got worse and worse and worse for the light blue and the yellow and the dark blue team. But take a look at the cost of goods sold for the team who's doing very well. Their cost of goods sold went down. So they actually figured something out. Maybe they chose a different supplier. Maybe they outsourced some of the manufacturing. They made some choices in their simulation that lowered their cost of goods sold so that based on the amount of revenue they were bringing in, right? So they were bringing in 12,000, let's say $12,224,000 in revenue. Their cost of goods sold was only, what does it say, $6,636,000. So they literally have a gross margin, should be gross margin somewhere in the name for ahead of about $6 million, right? That's a pretty good gross margin. That means about 50%. I'm sorry, that's gross profit. Oops, there we go. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Well, it's calculating a gross margin of 0. That one I don't know why the sim would do that, but the gross profit is certainly accurate. And the gross profit's about $6 million. And so out of that $6 million of gross profit, that's how the company pays sales commission, salaries, advertising, its suppliers, and other costs. And then finally, we calculate what's called net profit. And the team was doing well and actually making a profit. But look at the turns here. They were actually losing money for a while. And the dark blue team actually was making a considerable amount of profit or in the business. And then they made some bad choices in the last few turns. And the light blue team and green team has made some catastrophic choices in regard to, the final balance that's in their bank accounts. Most of them are losing money. And so they probably could have made some better choices, and hopefully, based on this video, going through the different, how can I compare my unit price, my unit cost, how many units I'm selling and that kind of stuff and whatnot to your competition, you can kind of glean some ideas and insights on how to actually make different decisions in your simulation. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, the biggest thing that I found is making sure that you're targeting the right audience, that you are building features into the backpack that are attractive to that audience, making sure that your advertising message would appeal to that audience, and making sure that the price is in the range in which they would like to spend. And then based on the price that the customer is willing to spend, that's really where you need to figure out how to calculate your unit cost. Because if your cost of goods sold is higher or close to the amount that someone's willing to pay for your backpack, you are not going to have much gross margin. And because you don't have much gross margin or much gross profit, then you don't have enough money to pay the bills in the business. And that's when a business goes bankrupt. So hopefully this video gave you a little insight into some of those things. Here's your marketing cost. So one of the things at the very last turn, notice that the orange team decided to make a drastic change in how much they're spending on marketing. And that drastic change is actually what ended up causing their downward turn in their final balance. Let's go back to marketing costs for some of the other. So for the blue team, the light blue team, one of their issues is they probably aren't spending enough money on marketing. And they should up that, because marketing is how you actually make people know, make them aware about your product and how you actually sell your product. So their kind of fatal mistake probably was not spending enough on marketing. But I think, as you can see, when you make these massive changes, that's not a good idea. You want to make more small incremental changes as you take each turn, and see how those affect your team's performance. And if your performance is going in the right direction, then you might make increases in each one of those smaller changes that you made, and then see again how those changes result in the turn. So thanks. And I'm going to end the share in the video. I hope this has been helpful, and that you do really, really well on the rest of the turns of the class. Thanks.